Folks, we got a monthly report to go over. Usually I'm reading the whole thing out, and I still will. Keep an eye on this channel later in the week if you want to see that, or you can join me on the live stream over on Space Tomato Gaming. But for now, I'm going to give you a summary of the highlights I found here that are pretty interesting from this first hour of reading. First up, we're going to jump into AI, where they're talking about creature development. Now, many of you remember when they first showed us the Valakkar, it was a battle where we would be moving around, chasing him around an arena. He'd go underground, he'd follow us, he'd come up, he'd spit stuff, you know, scary things. That didn't happen when we got the Valakkar. It was first introduced last year with the Lazarus locations in Pyro, and it kind of just got up and then did, and then, you know, that was it. They're talking about here, the devs expanding their ability to move around. One of the ways that they're doing this is updating the adult Valakkar. So instead of it just kind of being underground all the time, you can see here that it says that the team is ensuring the Apex Valakkar is going to freely move around the planetary nav mesh, allowing for more profound underground movements. Essentially, the algorithm has been improved to allow large creatures to find paths and travel long distances as they're not always close to players. So this is showing us the idea that eventually, it seems soon-ish, TM, they are going to have more free-roaming fauna, especially the larger Valakkar that we can maybe find randomly. That would definitely create more content on moons and planets to actually go out and find. After that, we're moving on to the ship section. Now, I'm going to fly right through this. We will have a whole section on this as we do, where we bring out the spreadsheet, the ship track and ship sheet, and talk about what might be coming up. But for now, you've got 6 unannounced vehicles coming up, 5 in the UK and 1 down here in North America. We've got the Hammerhead actually completing all of its gold standard tasks. This very well could be a release in February. We'll have to see. And it left them working on the other unannounced vehicles. Now, meanwhile, the Gattac Raylan progressed through the white box and is approaching its gate review in February. We're going to keep a close eye on this. It does seem like this is progressing fast enough to make it at Alien Week in June. And I think that is what they're aiming for. They have really grown in terms of their ship capabilities just over the last 2 years. I mean, what they were doing 2 years ago in terms of ships is entirely different from what they were doing just 6 months ago. They seemingly have a much bigger team. They're clearly working on more ships at once. I would not be surprised if they are able to bang out the Gattac Raylan by June. We'll keep an eye on this, see where it goes. The Grey Cat UTV looks a lot like the PTV. We've seen it. Looks good in black on black with the weapon mount. I think it looks like a nice vehicle to have as a little runabout if you need it, with more ground gameplay hopefully coming along. They're still working on it though, so later this year. Miss Call B passed its gray box review and is now in the Laud 0 phase. Very well could be a March release or even February if we're lucky. I think it's more likely it's coming in 4.7. Drake's Ironclad, Ironclad Assault, and the Command Module are all continuing development. These are big ones. The Ironclad is basically a floating base, and you can just take the command module and fly off on your own if you need to do some other stuff. Pretty interesting, and I think this might actually be a shot, possibly, of the command module, of the new one they've been making, or somewhere on the Ironclad, but I don't think we've seen any in-engine shots with the Ironclad. This looks very Drake. This might be a lamp on Drake's normal cockpit or command module or something. Either way, Ironclad also coming probably in May. We did mention the North American unannounced ship. There's also the Drake Kraken that's getting worked on. Still very far away. Still in white box, passing its first review ever, coming up in mid-February, but this is a 2027 release. Continuing on, we've got design work in the mission design area. They're working on Siege of Orison. For those of you who didn't know, Siege of Orison is making a comeback soon, and it will be instanced. So you're going to be able to get into a private session with the people that you actually want and go through this whole FPS scenario where you clear out buildings of pirates who have taken over the Orison skyline, and you have to track down lieutenants and take on certain objectives. It's a good time. When it first came out, it was a little difficult for people because you would get interrupted by other folks. They want to see how it works in an instanced environment, so let's give it a try and let them know. They've also got some additional missions coming up for Nyx, including courier and delivery missions. I'm really looking for more ground FPS stuff and investigation stuff, but that goes for the whole game. It's just more so Nyx because there's no ground locations in Nyx. The narrative team. Interestingly here, the bit that I found was the narrative and tech team talking about Starkitect. We haven't really seen anything mentioned about Starkitect in the monthly report since it was talked about back at CitizenCon 2954. But Starkitect is the answer to what I just mentioned, which was the content on planets, I guess not just with the Valakkar. having more locations procedurally made using a library of assets and then flipping the different styles based on their faction, on the architectural style, on the need of the location that you're visiting, of what kind of crops are around, what kind of materials are there. That's why narrative's getting involved here, because they're the ones who have to dictate, hey, don't forget this planet's made of this. You guys need to make sure that the library assets here are going to match that. So this doesn't mean it's anywhere nearby, but it does mean they're starting to get more into the details of the system. I hope that means that the design work of the system is kind of behind us, and they talk about it at some point soon. This is a really interesting one to keep your eyes on, though, because I'm sure procedural location development has a lot of you guys, you're on edge. That can be bad. I know. They know. They've acknowledged that it can be bad. And in the current game, they haven't really escaped that problem. So as they're able to free more devs from Squadron 42 and hopefully get more effort going into these library assets and this system, we do see the locations take a step up. Besides that, R&D is working on optimization tech. This is not a huge deal, but at the end of 2025, they saw a revival of the new and improved ground prototype that they're going to try to get into the PU and Squadron 42. It'll make everything cheaper to render and evaluate, and hopefully make the game run better, I guess. That's about it. There was no core gameplay section on this monthly report, which I found very strange. I think it would be weird to hear that they didn't do anything notable in crafting or inventory or engineering or rock cracker. There's seemingly a lot of stuff that has to go on right now in core gameplay, but there was no mention of anything. Don't know why. It is January, so I'm sure they're doing a lot of planning and sitting back and thinking about things, but they are also on one. We can tell they're kicking off from last year still, so this was kind of a surprise to me. Either way, these are my highlights of the monthly report. Again, if you want to see the whole thing in all of the detail with all of the references and stuff from the past, come join me on the stream. Come check out the deep dive on this channel. Come chill a little bit with us. We're pretty cool. We don't bite. We have toes. I promise it's not weird. Anyways, thanks for sticking around for this update. Y'all have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.